Okay, I think we can start now.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Office Hour for today. So like we shared in the group, today I won't just be asking for challenges that you faced. However, we'll be going over some things, some basics that are relating to Python that we've noticed that some people actually struggle with. So we're going to be explaining, so I'm going to be explaining some of these concepts and then giving some examples on how to use them. And then, so after the session, you can ask questions, okay, like relating to some of the basics that were addressed today, and we'll try our best to answer them. All right, so let's get your questions ready. So I'll be talking about Python data types. I'll be talking about Python naming conventions, because we've seen that a whole lot of people struggle with naming functions or classes or variables here. And then one important thing also is how to debug your code in Python. All right, so we'll be talking about how to handle errors, like at least in a very simple and basic way. So I'll be sharing my screen now. So you can start. I hope we can all hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. All right, so I'll also be sharing also be sharing a couple of links that can help us to like have like a proper grasp on some of these concepts that we'll be talking about.
It's very patient for me to just wait and make it to your mouth by
All right. So, like I said, the first thing we'll be talking about is data types. All right. Okay. So, data types are just like a classification of different data items, like I said here, right? They help us understand, or they help us know or get us well informed of the operations that are available to those particular data types. So like if you have like a data item that you're working with, knowing the data type helps you to understand the kind of operations that you can perform on that particular data. And in Python, there are lots of data types, but we'll be focusing on these ones because these are the ones that we interface with, like mostly on our day-to-day dealings with Python. So we have numeric data types, which include integers and floats. We have sequence data types, which include strings, lists, and tuples. We have Boolean data types, which are just true and false statements, true and false data. We have sets, and we have dictionary. So those are like the 5 data types or classifications of data that I'll be focusing on for this. Right. So when we talk about numeric data types, I hope I'm not going too fast.
Is there any way that you could make it a little larger to see?
All right.
Thank you.
Is this large enough?
Great. Yes. Thank you.
Enough. All right. All right. So I hope I'm not going too fast. Please, if I'm going too fast, please stop me. Let me just open the chat somewhere here so I can see messages on the comment. All right, so when we talk about numeric data types, we have 3 basic data types on that numeric classification. We have so numeric data types basically refer to data types that hold numeric value. And then the 3 types we have under this, we have integers, we have floats, and we have complex numbers. For integers just represent whole values, like whole number values. They could be positive or negative. So they are usually values that do not have a fraction or a decimal, a 0.0 something, a 0.2, a 0.1. So those are integers. Floats are the opposite of integers. They have decimal points. They have they could also be positive or negative. And then complex numbers are, data types or numbers that have both, they have a real part and an imaginary part. So when you see something of this format, -2 + 3j, those are complex numbers. And then these are examples of integers: 6, 23, 2, 1, 0, anything that doesn't have a decimal. And then floats have, these are called floating point numbers. So they have decimal values. They have a point something just behind them, could be positive, could be negative. And so the numeric data types, when you see integers or floats, so integers, I know that we've been taught on classes and objects. So integers are usually of the class int in Python. I don't really want to dive a lot. So I don't know if you've been taught, but a class is the blueprint of an object. So a class represents like a list of attributes or properties of an object and methods available to that object. So when you talk about integers, they are of the class int in Python. We'll go into that in a bit. They are the class int. When we talk about floats, they are the class float in Python, and then complex numbers are of the class complex. I'll show you how to check for the classes of each data. Like if you see a data and you're not sure of what kind of data it is, there's a way you can check in Python, right? So knowing this data type, or knowing the data type of an item, helps you understand the kind of operations that you can carry out on that item. So now we have this numeric data types, and you can carry out operations such as addition, you can carry out operations such as subtraction, multiplication, and division. We can try out an example. So we have a variable A. We have a variable A, which is equals to 15. We have B, which is equals to 25, right? And we ask Python to print A plus B. So we can do Python 3 examples of PY. So we see it prints out 40. So we can carry out addition, we can carry out subtraction, -10. We can carry out multiplication, 375, and then this. So we can do all of these operations. Like this confirms that we can do all of these operations on numeric data types. If we do this if we change this to a decimal, we can also have a value for this. So we see something printed out. So at least now we know that, okay, all these operations can be carried out on numeric data types. So when we move into, I don't know, do we all understand everything, or do we understand like as far as it is here on numeric data types? Any questions before I go ahead to explain the next data type? All right, thank you, Amelia. All right, thank you. Okay, so we move to sequence data types, and when we talk about sequence data types, we talk about a collection of similar data types. We talk about not just one data type, not just one data item like you have in int or float or complex numbers, not just one. We talk about a collection, right? So we have 3 data types under the sequence, under the classification of sequence. We have strings, we have lists, and we have tuples. So strings are a sequence of Unicode characters. That's what I wrote here. Just give me a moment. So, so they're a collection of Unicode characters, and they are represented by, you either use single quotes for them, double quotes, or triple quotes. Triple quotes to represent strings. All right, so your Unicode characters could be letters. It could be letters, could be numbers, or like a string is a sequence, a collection of those characters, right? And then strings are, one thing to note, one important thing to note is that strings are immutable. When I say strings are immutable, it means that you can't change the values of a string. Let's say, for example, okay, so let's write some code. So we have a variable x, which is equal to, so we said strings strings are represented by single, double, or multiple, or 3 quotes, triple quotes, yes, triple quotes. So triple quotes actually represent multi-line quotes. So you can write something like, okay, so this is a string, hello. This is a string, as opposed to, we have hello world. This is also a string, and then this is a multi-line string. So I can write something here, can enter, continue writing, enter, continue writing. So you use this triple quotes when you want to write a multi-line thing, a multi-line variable, right? So strings are immutable. And let's see the characteristics of strings before we try them out. So I said you can access the characters of a string using string indexing or string slicing. All right. So if I want to get, okay, let's say, first of all, string characters are indexed from 0 to the last number. So you have the first character of a string being 0, the next one 1, next one 2, next one 3, next one 4. So if you want to get the first character of a string, you use the index 0, and then 4, and so on. And yeah, so to get, if I want to get the letter H from this string, I'll just say print X 0, right? Print X 0. And this, you see, it prints A, and this is called string indexing. So you can get whatever character of a string, whatever character you want, as long as you know the index of that string, right? But you can't change the value of a string. You can't change any character in a string. Let's say we want to, like, okay, assign, make X 0. I want to make X 0. I want to change this H here to J, right? Let's see if that is going to work. I want to change the first letter of this string here to 0 to J. Let's see if that works.
Eugene Daniels and Miles Keller, they were
So you see an error written here, type error, string does not support item assignment. So you can't reassign or you can't change the value of a string. You can't change any character in a string. And that's what it means when you say a string is immutable. Right. And also strings also are you can also get like, if you want to get like you want to get the index of a string from one place to another place. Let's say you want to get just HL without the 0 or the exclamation mark, you can do that. And here's how you can do that. So you can start from index 0. This is index 0, and then stop at the last value. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So we can do index 0, I think +1. Let's see what that prints first. Sorry, I have to comment out this. Okay, so if you stop at a number, it doesn't actually include that number. So you have to actually add one, add an extra number to it. So this prints hell for us. We don't want the 0 or the exclamation mark. So this is called slicing. This is called slicing. So you can get like a particular, depending on the index that you want, you can get the characters of a string. Any questions regarding strings? So these are the most important things to note when you're dealing with strings. They are immutable. You can't change the characters of a string. You can access characters of a string using string indexing. Once you know the index of the character you want to get, you can get the character from that string, and then you can slice a string, that is get a list of characters from that string. Do we all understand strings so far?
Yes, we do.
All right. Okay, so lists, moving on to lists. Lists are an ordered collection or an ordered sequence of items, usually enclosed within a square bracket, and they are mutable. So a list usually would look like this. What variable have I not used? G. Usually look like this, or I have 2. I have yes, 0.5. Right, so this is how a list looks. It's a collection of items. You can also index a list. You can get like different values, like you can get different items of a list using list. You can index a list to get different values in that list. So if I want to get array, I can do print G0. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I have array. So I can get different items on the list as long as I know the index. It also uses the 0 indexing format. It starts with index 0 up to the last index. It's always the first item in a list or a string is usually 0, usually of index 0, right? And so once you know the index of an item, you can always get that item from a list. Lists are mutable. They are unlike strings. Strings are immutable. Lists are mutable, meaning you can change the value of a list. So let's try that. Let's change G0 and change it from array and make it Amelia. Right. Okay, this print statement is before this assignment. Okay, let's see how that changes. Right, So before we reassigned G0 to Amelia, G0 was Ore. And then after we changed G0 to Amelia, when we printed out G0, we have Amelia. So strings, at least are mutable, strings are immutable. And then while strings are denoted or represented using single quotes, double quotes, or triple quotes, lists are represented using using square brackets. Using square brackets, lists can be a collection of numbers or floating point numbers or strings like letters. Yeah, so those are lists, all right? And then, so I forgot one thing. So you can convert from, okay, I think I would go back to that when I get here. Right. And then the last one, please, any questions on lists? Any questions on lists before I move on? Okay. All right. So we can move on to tuples. A tuple is also like a list, but the difference between a tuple and a list, a tuple is usually denoted with a, so this is a tuple. Let me add comments. Let me just move on so I don't take too much time. So a tuple F or a tuple is usually denoted using the normal brackets. I mean, the destined denoted is usually represented using this normal brackets. So you can also have everything that is in here in a tuple. But tuples are immutable. Tuples are also immutable. You can't, let's see, indexing. All right. So tuples can also be indexed. You can also, they can be indexed, they can be sliced, but they are immutable. You can't change the value. You can't reassign the value of an item in a tuple to another value. So if we try to do what we did, here for the list, and we try to do it here, like changing our Ore to Amelia, we see that this shows us an error, right? So tuple does not support, you see tuple object does not support item assignment, right? So you can't change the value of an item in a tuple to another value. So tuples are immutable, right? So the difference between a string is denoted by a single, double, or triple quotes, a list is denoted by a square bracket, and then a tuple is denoted using normal brackets. A string is immutable, lists are mutable, tuples are immutable, right? And so that's it's basically about the sequence data type. So before I move on, I'd like to ask if you have any questions. And yeah, the questions are not limited to what I've explained here. So in some of the tasks that we've done over the last couple of weeks, if you've encountered certain data types and then they've given you issues, or you've had errors, you've tried to perform some operations on them, and then you've had like countless errors and you've not been able to figure them out. Now is the time to think about them and ask, right? Because we're treating data types. I'm sure you must have encountered one or more of these data types and while doing some of your tasks. So if you have questions regarding data types based on the tasks that you've done, you can ask them now. All right.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I know you just said data types, but are we gonna move over to some functions later on? Because I'm having some problems with that.
Yeah, definitely. We will.
Okay. All right.
Right. So so the Boolean data type, they're not much. It's just true or false. Those are Boolean data types. That you either have true or you have false. They are built-in Python keywords, right? That's it about Boolean data types. And then sets are an ordered collection of data type. They are iterable, they are mutable, and then they are unique. The items in a set, they are unique. You can't have duplicate items in a set. And then dictionaries.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm here.
Excuse me. Can we have an example for set?
All right.
Thank you.
Give me a moment. Sorry, maintenance is done. Sorry, just give me a minute. All right, so for sets, we can have like let's create a set. All right, so let's have a variable k. Sets are usually denoted with curly braces, and they have like the same, they can have like, the same item, right? So they're immutable. So if, let's see, I said you can't have duplicate items in a set, right? So this should throw me an error. Let's print key. Okay, so we have this here. So see that it removes the duplicates. Like it won't show you an error, but it will remove the duplicate. You can only have one item. It removes any duplicate of any item. So you can also index sets the same way you index a list. Oh no, you can't. They're unordered. Sets are unordered. Sets are unordered, so you can't refer to items of a set. So you don't have 0, 1, 2, 3 like you had for lists, dictionary, and lists, strings, and tuples. You can't index a list the same way you do. You can't index a set the same way you do for strings and lists, and you can't change the value of any item since you don't even know the index of any of the items in a set. You can't change the value. So they're also immutable, they're unchangeable, and do not allow duplicate values. Yeah, so like that's it about sets. They have the application in like different things, right? Maybe you have a list and you're trying to remove duplicates of a value, or you're trying to remove duplicate items in the list. You can just use the set you can use the set class or the set function to remove duplicates. So that works in some cases. And, do you understand?
Yes, thank you.
All right. All right, so let's move on to dictionary. So I know that in the last couple of weeks, we've had to deal with dictionaries a lot, right? So let's just see a dictionary as, right, I have it here as an unordered collection of data values, right? So in more simple terms, it's a collection of key and value pairs. It's a collection of key and value pairs, right? That's what the dictionary is, a collection of key and value pairs. So you have something like, which variable have I not, which letter have I not used? Let's say V. We have a dictionary V. Let me name this dict V, right? And then dictionaries are also represented using curly braces, right? You have key value pairs. It's a collection of key value pairs. You have a key or an identity and it has a value. So dictionaries are used to store maybe information about something, right? You have a person, you want to store information about that person. It means you want to store like different properties of that person. You want to store the name of the person. You want to store things like the height. You want to store things like the weight. You want to store things like the basically, so those are things that you want to store about a person. So it used to store key and value pairs, like property and value. So let's say we have a dict V, which is supposed to represent a dictionary of a person. So we store the name of that person and we give it a value of, or let me use myself, or right, I want to store my height. My height. Putting a value 5 something, I don't know. So I want to store let's say class class 3. Yeah, so this is a dictionary. This is a simple dictionary that stores information about me, right? I have my name, which has a value of Ore. I have my height, which has a value of 53. I have my class, which has a value of 3. Right? So that's what the dictionary is used to store. It used to store data. It's so like a set, like a collection of data, a value, a key and a value, a property that has a value. Right, it's used to like maybe a collection of related items. That's the best way I can explain dictionary. And then when you want to get the value of a particular property, you can just use the key. So if I want to get my name, right? If I want to get my name Ore, I just use name to get Ore from the dictionary. Or if I want to get my height, I use height to get the value of my height from this dictionary. Or I use class to get the value of my class from this dictionary. So dictionaries are indexed using their keys. All right, you get the value of a dictionary using, you get the value of an item from the dictionary using the key. So let's see how we do that. You can do, you want to get already, you can print dict V and use the key, passing the key name. Right? There are 2 ways to do this. So I get Ore. Let me remove this. Bring this up a bit. Please, can we all see my screen? So I get Ore. So you can use the key of a dictionary to get the value of that key, right? And also you can use let me see. This is also something to explain for the key. Let me try something. There's also another way you can do this. It will come in handy. Okay, so if you want to get a list of all the keys in the dictionary, maybe a list of all the properties or all the keys that you have in the dictionary, you can use dict.keys. Right, you should print out all the keys that you have. So you have name, height, and class. So these are the keys that you have. These are the properties or the values that you or the keys that you have, right? And you can get any of them. You can get either of them or any of them from. You can get the value of any of them. Right? If you're not sure of what properties or what keys you have, you can use dict.v.keys to get a list of everything, and then you can use it to do whatever it is you want to do. But that's about it on dictionaries.
Lena, hello?
Yeah.
Are you able to use the positioning if you wanted to find one of the keys? Let's say,
Sorry?
are you able to use the position, the number position, if you wanted to find one of the keys? Can you hear me?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I was saying, say you wanted to find a key in the dictionary. Can you use the positioning like we use when you try with the number position, like 0, 1?
Can you give me a moment? Just give me a moment. I can't really hear. Right, can you help me type the question in chat? I can't really
You can't hear me? Okay.
because it's breaking a lot.
Sure.
So, moving on. Okay, can you come and give me your question?
Is here?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello.
Yeah, I just typed it.
Use the position if you're trying to find a key. Okay, so you can't use the position, right? Because dictionaries are unordered. They're unordered, so they're not like lists where you have where they're. Let's try it. Let's see if we can get that. Right. Let's see if we can do it that way. So not the answer, but let's see. You never know. Apparently has been worked on by somebody. We have key error. So the reason why dictionaries are unordered So because they're unordered, you don't have it from 0, 1, 2, 3 or 0 something something. You can't actually say, okay, I know where 0 is, I know what index 0 is. They are unordered. They are not like arranged in a particular order, or they're not arranged in insertion order, right? So you can't use the index. So what you can use to get a value is the key. So like I said, if you are not sure of the keys or of the keys that you have in a dictionary, you can get the keys using dict_v.keys, and then you can't use dictionaries like a regular list. You can't. Yeah, so if you use dict keys, you have all the keys that you have. It will give you all the keys you have in a dictionary. And then using these keys, you can now pick one of the key and use it to get the value. I don't know if you understand. I don't know if that makes sense. Frank, does that make sense? All right. Okay, so Ebony, we'll come back to I'm going to answer your question in a bit. Let me just speed up to what I have. Right. Okay, so that's that about those data types, the numeric data types, the sequence data types, and Boolean sets and dictionary. That's like basically it about them. Like the more you use them, the more you understand their properties and how you can use them. All right. So I'm going to go into like Python keywords to note when you're dealing with data types, right? So you can move from one data type to another data type if you know the class name. So you can convert an int to a float. You can convert a float to an int. You can convert a string to a list. You can convert a list to a set. You can convert a tuple to a list. There are ways to move from one data type to another. I said earlier that a class is the blueprint of an object. So in Python, there are already keywords to represent each of these data types. So the int data type, the integer data type is represented or has a class of type, or it has a class of int. The float data type has a class of float. The set data type has a class of set. The string data type has a class of string. So you can convert from one data type, you can move from one data type to another using these keywords, right? So we have, let's go back to our example. So we have A to be 0.15 here. We can convert A, which is a float, from one type. Okay, first of all, let's look at this type keyword. So this type keyword is used to check for the data type of an item or a data item or a variable. So we have A is equal to 0.15, but somehow you're not really sure or you've forgotten what data type 0.15 is. You can just do print type 0.15. Right, let me comment these things. You can do print type 0.15 and it should give us class float, right? So this tells us the type of, the class or the type of data that 0.15 is, or A, actually, I wanted to pass in A. Yes, or it tells us the type of the data type of A. So A is a float, right? But we can convert a number from being a float to an integer just using the int keyword. So if we convert 0.15 to an int, if we print type A, it should give us int, right? So it has converted 0.15 to an int, and then it prints the type of A now is int. If we print A, it should give us 0, if I'm right. Yeah, A gives us 0. Right, so you can move from one data type to another data type using these keywords. So this is a list, right? This G here is a list. Let me uncomment this. We can convert G from being a list to a tuple. So if we print the type of G right now, if we print type G, right, this should give us a list. So it gives us, it's telling us that G is a list, but we want to convert G into, once convert G from being a list to a tuple. We can just add the tuple keyword, right, to this, and the type of G should change to being a tuple, right? So all these keywords are available. Your int is available in Python, float is available in Python, set is available in Python, string is available in Python, tuple is available in Python. Guess what? You can convert this from a tuple back to a list. So let's do y is equals to list. Or let's do d is equals to, don't have d anyway, is equals to list g. So we print, if we print type of D now, it should give us a list. Type D. Right, so it should give us a list. It gave us a list. So this is how we move from one data type to another. This is how we can convert a variable from one particular data type into another data type. Right. So if you're stuck on a challenge and you have to convert maybe an integer, or you want to take an input from a user, and the user is entering, the user could enter a decimal or something that's like a decimal, where you want your input to be the Hi everyone, so sorry. I don't know if you could. So as I was saying, this is how you move from one data type to another, just using the keywords. And these are the keywords I've listed here. And I've listed what this type does. Types helps you to know the data type of an item or an object. And then this dir keyword, right? So we have the int data type, we have the tuple data type, we have the list data type. So the dir keyword is used to know, okay, what attributes and what method. It's a class. A class usually has attributes, which are like properties of that class, and it has methods, like the functions you define inside that class. So some of these classes are inbuilt in Python and they have their different methods. So sometimes you might be faced with a challenge and you don't know, you want to carry out an operation, but you don't know if it's possible to carry out that operation on that data item or that object. So you might want to use the dir keyword to check, okay, what methods are available, what attributes are available for me to do this. So we can try, okay, let's see list, and let's see, okay, what methods or attributes are available to, let me comment like all these print statements out so we can see. Okay. So we can see, so we're going to print, we want to print and see what methods or attributes are available to using the list data type. All right, so we see like a whole lot of methods here. So we can append to a list, we can clear a list, we can copy a list, we can count a list, we can extend a list, we can get the index of a list, we can insert into a list, we can pop, we can remove, we can reverse, we can sort. These are also other methods that you can do or perform on a list. So at times when you don't know, when you want to perform a particular action and you're not sure how to do it or whether it is possible, you can use the dir keyword to check if those methods are available Although VS Code 2 also helps, I think when you do a dot, for example, you see some of these methods here. So you can get some of these methods using, like, VS Code 2 can help you out, but if you don't have this, or probably even install this extension or whatever makes this possible, you can use the dir keyword to access the methods and the methods available to doing this. So like at this point, do we all understand, like, so far? Hi everyone, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? All right, so so far, like, do we understand, like, all these things that I've explained on data structures, like, so far? All right, okay. So a few things, right? Naming conventions in Python, right? I've seen, so when it comes to programming, there are certain ways to do things. There are certain ways to name, there are certain names to name functions, there are certain ways to name variables, there are certain ways to name modules. Those are Python files. There are certain names to name classes, right? And it is very important that you know them and you follow them. I mean, some people have submitted their tasks and assignments for the week, and then I've seen like extremely long file names. I've seen extremely long function names, and it's not like they are bad, but like it makes your code difficult to read. It makes your code difficult to read sometimes, and like it can be confusing when you see like long function names or long module names or long file names, long class names like that. So there's a way to do things, there's a way to write function names, there's a way to write class names, right? So modules are Python files, your .py files. This is a module. So modules are Python files, and they should be short. Modules should be short, like they should have short names and should all be in lowercase. Modules should all be in lowercase. So if you have like, okay, maybe a compound name, like I have data types.txt. If I don't want to write it together, I could just have like an underscore. I can rename this. This is never a module, but okay, let's assume it's a module, and have an underscore if I have like a compound name. So you can separate two words if it's supposed to be the name of your file using an underscore. It should all be in lowercase. Class names use what they call camel case. Yeah, it's called camel case. It said it's cap words. So the first letter of each word of a class name is capitalized, just like what you have here. So here, if you have a class like your class budget app, your budget app should be named this way. Yeah. So this is how to name classes in Python. I'll be sharing links to some of this. I'll be sharing links to the PEP 8 style guide for naming. Do I have it open here? So this is the file. You can go through this file and it'll help you name. I'll drop it on the group. I'll drop it on the Slack channel. So this is how you should name your classes, and then your function names should also be the same as your module names. It should be in small letters and can be separated, or should be separated by underscores if you have like a compound name or you have a name that should be separated, right? Same thing, the same thing for variable names. So like you have a variable, and what I did here is bad variable naming. You shouldn't use letters as your variable name. Your variable name should your variable name should be a bit descriptive, right? So when somebody sees your code and is reading through your code, the person can understand that, oh, okay, this is, so if I have this string here, I can name it, oh, hello string or something. So your variable name should be written in all small letters, and if you have a compound name, it should be separated using underscores. I think those are like, that's like all I have to say about naming conventions. So like these things are really important. And also when you have like, aside naming convention, I think I've made a few corrections on people's codes. When you submit your code and you have commented out code, just like I have here, right? When you submit your assignment or your task for the week, and then you have commented out code, meaning like code that you don't use or is not useful to you at that point in time, it's always good to remove it. I should remove this, but because we're using this for an example, I won't. So we can always remove, you should always learn to remove your commented out code, so your code does not look too bulky and hard to understand, right? Especially for your for whoever is marking or accessing your code, right? I think that's the only thing I have to say about coding conventions or naming conventions whatsoever. And yes, the last thing that I'll be discussing on today is how to debug in Python. So like a lot of people, right? A lot of people like here, whenever we have like little challenges, like some of these errors are like easy to read. Like when you read the error, if you read the error properly, be able to trace the error, right? So like this is very important to you as a programmer. You should learn how to read your errors, trace your errors, and fix your error, right? There's some errors that you should learn how to fix yourself, because sometimes not every time your mentor, or you can save your mental distress by like learning to fix your errors. Right. Just give me a moment. All right, so reading errors, like I said, right? Okay, let's see this. This is a class that we didn't put anything there, so you should actually throw me an error, right? So we have unexpected error, end of line while passing. So usually this end of line function. So first of all, you read errors from bottom up, right? You read errors from bottom up. So things to note when you are reading errors, I think I noted them down here. You read the trace back from bottom to up. You read from the last line of the error back to the top. You check for the kind of error your code is throwing. It could be syntax error, like I have here. I have a syntax error here, end of line, blah, blah, blah. It could be index error. It could be, there are different kinds of errors. I will share a link. You can check the Python documentation. Let me see if I can have docs.python.org. So you can Google for different kind of errors that you have or you can have. Let's see. It's plenty. Let's see. Errors and exceptions. So you have syntax errors and you have exceptions. All right, so you check for the kind of error, you check for the line where the error is being raised, and then you fix it. So like, for example, here now, we have It says syntax error, right? We check the Python documentation and you check for the meaning of syntax errors. Syntax errors are also known as passing errors and are perhaps the most common kind of complaints we get. Right, so syntax error usually are related to, they're also passing errors, and they're usually descriptive of errors that, okay, a syntax, there's a way things are supposed to be written in Python. There's a way functions are supposed to be written. There's a way classes are supposed to be written. And then that's the syntax for writing Python. That's syntax for writing classes in Python. That's the syntax for writing functions. So when those syntaxes are violated or they're not followed the way they should, you have a syntax error, right? And that's what we have here. You can't just declare a class and just leave it that way in Python. You should have something inside the class. So you can't just write a class like this, and that's why we have an error. And it says this error is on line 40. And that's because line 40 is the end of the file here, or the end of line here. And that's because this is where this code stops, and then we have all this commented out code, and then this is, if this commented out code is not here, it should be the last line here. So that's because there's no concluding statement to this class. So if we pass this now, we shouldn't have this error anymore, right? It's not there anymore. So syntax error are usually related to like a violation of a particular syntax for a data type or something. So first thing you should do when dealing with errors is, first of all, read the error from bottom up. Try to note which kind of error is being stated or is you're having, and then note the line where the error is and fix it. Let's take a look at another one. I think we had one when we tried to reassign the value to a tuple. Let's use this. Let's use this one. Let me comment out this print statement here. Went down, just leave this class. So we try to do this and says tuple. We have a type error here. A type error. So like all these things have like, there are different errors here. Let me see if I can see everything here. I'm going to like check for each of these links one after the other and then send them to you. Right, so this is a type error. A type error now is a violation of a data type, right? So we are trying to do what is not allowed for the tuple data type, which is to reassign or change one of the items of a tuple. A tuple is immutable. And so here, I'm trying to change the value of F0 to Amelia. And a tuple is immutable. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to violate what this data type can accommodate or what it can do. And that's why I have a type error. And then it states clearly that tuple object does not support item assignment, right? So it's telling me that, oh, okay, I'm trying to carry out an operation that this data type does not allow. And then I read back up and then I see that, oh, okay, this is where the error is coming from in line 28. And it actually states the code that's giving me the error. So it's F0 Amelia that's giving me the error. So I go back to my line 28 and I see this. And then if I try to, this is where the error is. I just try to fix this error. I've noted the kind of error that it is. I've seen where the error is and I've seen the code that's giving me the error. So what I try to do is go to line 28, read about this error or read about this data type and fix it. And then your error is gone. So right now, commenting this out, I don't have the error anymore. So those are like that's how to fix errors in Python, right? So this should help us like further in our debugging, like how to debug your Python code. All right, so I hope like we all understand like most of what's I've spoken about or covered today, and I hope this has been helpful to everybody. So right now I'll be taking questions like regarding data types, coding conventions. I should call these coding conventions, coding and naming conventions, and how to debug or how to fix errors in Python. So I'll be taking your questions now. Right, could be on any subject. Hello. Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes, we can hear you.
All right, so like it's time for questions. I mean, we've come to the end of like this session, right? So like now I'll be taking questions like regarding all that we've covered today.
I have a question, and it's related to debugging.
It's related to what?
Debugging.
Debugging. All right.
So I was wondering if you could go over the different tools that we can use to debug, as well as like I know that you can use like the errors that are thrown in your IDE to help you debug, but you can also use I guess like the browser tools to debug. Now, previously I've used it to debug in JavaScript. Does it work the same way in Python?
Usually, because right now we're coding on our local host, which is your computer, right? It's not on the browser yet. So like, for example, your browser tools might not really work in this case. So like what might work for you right now is what might work for you right now is like tools available to you on this IDE. Right. There are a few tools that I forgot to list them out here. But like we'll compile like some of the tools that you can use, and then we'll probably send links on how to use them, and we'll send them to you on the channel. But like manually, like talking about code that you're writing here on your local host, like this is the fastest way to debug them.
What's the tool called?
Sorry?
What's the tool?
What's it? What?
What is the name of the tool?
All right, so like I can't give you like there's so many tools that I'm trying to remember now, but I can't remember at the moment. But I'm going to give you like I'm going to like compile some of their names and then send it to you on the group, like something tools that you can use on your IDE here. I know PyCharm. If you use PyCharm for coding, PyCharm will actually always highlight where you have errors for you. However,
Yeah,
on VS Code here, there are extensions that you can use to detect syntax errors. I'll find the names of the tools. I'll get the names of the tools and see if I can send them to you in the Slack channel.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so any other questions? Doesn't have to be relating to what I spoke on today. If some of these things are covered or some of the things have troubled you when you are doing or completing any of the tasks, you can ask them here. Yeah, then also some of the links or some of the sites that you can use to learn on data types. I'll send this one for Geek for Geeks. There's Geek for Geeks. There's program is Geek for Geeks is really good. This would help you like get a hang of data types to a very large extent. I'll be sharing that with the group. I'll be sharing that. Let me put it in the chat here. So All right, I'll try to put this in. We'll see how we can. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much. So we'll see how either on the LMS or on the Slack channel. We'll see how we can make this. I can make this file available to you so you can go through it. Yeah. So let me see. This is also good. So the Python documentation, I know this might be like really hard to use, but it's really good. I mean, this is Python itself, like documentation for every single thing that you might encounter in Python. Might not be well explanatory sometimes, but it's really good. It will come in really handy. All right, so okay, so like in the absence of questions, I'll also like to ask, okay, so what topics do you think that you struggle with, that you think you would like us to touch on?
How to use Django, or what is it called? Let me just throw it out in the chat.
So how to use Django.
I need some help with IntelliSense. I had installed Django extension, but I feel like the IntelliSense is not working on my VS Code.
All right. I didn't hear what you said. I didn't hear you. Please, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I need some help with IntelliSense. So I had installed the extension, Django extension in Visual Studio Code, but I feel like the IntelliSense is not showing up. Like if I say like models.model or like char field, it's not showing properly. So I just need some help with auto code completion, like on control space.
Okay, sometimes usually your interpreter. Like you always have to select the Python interpreter that you're using. But yeah, I understand the error. I do have it sometimes. So all right, fam, just reach out to any one of us. Sorry, I don't know. Please, who just spoke? Who just spoke now? The IntelliSense issue.
Hello, Chris. So regarding the IntelliSense, we can work on that. Just send me a DM and I'll send you some extensions. I can remember you mentioned something like that on the channel. So just send me a DM and I'll send you some extensions, the one I use, and I'm sure it will work on your VS Code.
Okay, so you're going to send me an extension like other than the Django one?
Yeah, I'm going to send you a link to the extensions, the one I use. Yeah, so you should be able to get the IntelliSense from the extensions.
Okay, yeah, I'll try that. Yeah, ping me the extension name. I'll try to install that.
All right, so we'll take note of some of these things that you requested for the try except instances. All right, so okay, so let me just get this link that I
So I think Caleb said he or she, sorry, I don't know, but I think Caleb said like refresher on Django. I think Hiala said on GitHub. So what we'll do is, this is not the only office hours we'll be having this week. we have another one on Saturday. So on Saturday, probably we'll have time to talk about the topics we've not talked about. Probably an intro to Django, models, crude, and yeah, and the rest. So.
All right, guys. So we'll take note of all these things that you've requested for, and we'll have another office hours this week, and then we'll try to cover like another set of things that you requested for, and then also some of these links will be compiled. Some of these things that I posted on the channel here, I posted on the chat here, will be posted on the channel, right, for everyone to see or go over. I think I have a link on setting up virtual environment for projects. There should be also, there's also a link I set, because I know some people are having issues with setting up like a development tools for your MacBook, right? Some people are having issues with MacBook and setting up development tools. So I'll also do there's also like I used a document or a documentation to actually set up my laptop for development. So I'm going to look out for those links and then post them on the channel so everyone can benefit from it. And then we'll also do one for Windows, like how to set up your tool or your work tool, your laptop for development. Right. Cover unit tests. Hi Meg, we'll get back to you on that. Sure, we'll get back to you from that. All right, so any other questions? Please drop your questions.
I was wondering, there are some topics that I was wondering if we would cover other than unit tests. I was wondering, are we going to be going over big O notation?
Data structures.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not covering them for the scope of what we're doing, but if we have more time, after like we've completed projects and everything we're supposed to do, we can do that, but like not for the scope of what we're doing at the moment.
Okay, and then also, I mean, for me personally, I think it would. I don't know how many other people feel this way too, but I think covering like general architecture, how the different components of the courses that we have done so far kind of fit together. I mean, we've covered aspects of things, but there's still a couple of missing links, so that could be nice to go through.
All right, so you can help us fix some of these things by if you feel like some aspects, like if you know particular aspects or things that you think should have been touched on and have not been touched on, you can just like drop a message for us on the channel, and then we'll take note of them and see if we can cover them during one of our office hours.
Which channel?
On Slack channel.
Just the general Python?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see if we can copy and see if we can cover them before.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
So, any other questions? So in all right, everyone. In the absence of questions, the ending office
Hi.
hours. All right.
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, hi. Yeah, I put in the chat. Test-driven development (TDD) is that something that we can go over at some point?
Because we have a lot of things that we're trying to cover at the moment, we won't be covering in a test. I mean, some of these things, if after all that we are supposed to do, reaching our aim and objective for this course, we can, if there's time, to cover it. But for now, we're not covering any tests or test-driven development. But we can share resources
Okay.
on it for people who.
Yeah.
We can share
Yeah,
resources on it.
resources will be fine.
All right.
Great.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So a good question. So I love the videos that we have in class. So for instance, if you had a video on test-driven development, but we don't have an assignment on it, then we could just follow the video and not have an assignment due to it. But that's assuming that all the information that you're testing us on or assigning us is all the same videos that you have in your library. So, if you have other stuff in your libraries that aren't part of the curriculum that were assigned, like TDD, as long as I have the video, I can just figure it out. So that's all. Thank you.
Like I said, like since we will not be covering it, but we'll definitely share resources for those of you that want to learn test-driven
All right, thank
development. Yeah. Thanks, Chris. All right, guys, in the absence of questions, we'll be ending office hours for today. We'll be having another one soonest, and time will be communicated to us on the Slack channel. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining. All right, have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Hello, Femi. You can stop the recording now.